And today I'm going to tell you about exploring our solar system, planets, and space for kids.
Our solar system.
Our solar system.
Have you ever looked up into the sky?
Have you ever looked up into the sky and wondered what was there? Higher than the birds.
Wondered what was there?
Higher than the birds.
Past the cloud.
Past the clouds and farther than the moon. A whole host of fascinating objects spin in outer
And
space.
farther than the moon, a whole host of fascinating objects spin in outer space. Let's imagine for a moment.
Let's imagine for a moment that we can leave the Earth behind and explore the solar
That we
system.
can leave the Earth behind and explore the solar system that surrounds it.
And explore the solar system that surrounds it.
We call it the solar system
We call it the solar system because everything in its center around the sun.
because everything is centered around the sun.
And
And
so-
solar means something to do with the sun.
And solar means something to do with the sun. The sun is a star, just like many of these stars.
The sun is a star, just like many of the stars that you
Just like many of the stars you can see in the night sky, just many times closer to us. Still, the sun is very
see in the night sky, just many times closer to us. Still,
still. Still, the sun is
the sun
very
is very,
very-
very far away
far away from Earth. Almost 93 million miles away.
from the Earth, almost 93 million miles away. That's why it looks so small.
That's why it looks so small,
Even though it's the biggest object
even though it's the biggest object in the solar system. In fact, the sun
in the solar system. In fact,
the-
the sun makes up more than
The sun makes up more than 99% of the mass in the solar system. If you put all the planets, moons, asteroids,
99% of the mass in the solar system. If you
You
put
put-
all of the planets, moons, asteroids,
comets, and everything else in the solar system together, it would make up less than
and everything else in the solar system together, they would make up less
Less-
than
one quarter of a percent of
quarter
it.
of a percent of it. The sun is so big that it's more than
The sun is so big that it's more than 100 times wider than Earth. And if it
100 times wider than the Earth. And if it were a giant jump,
it would a giant jar, you could fit more than 1 million Earths into it.
you could fit more than 1 million Earths into it. More than that.
More than that, the sun is what holds the solar system together.
The sun is what holds the solar system together. Its
Its massive
massive
gravity
gravity is what
is what keeps the Earth and the other planets circling around it instead of
keeps
drifting.
the Earth and all the other planets circling around it instead of drifting off into
Instead of drifting off into space.
space. The sun is
also what allow us to live on Earth. Without the sun,
what allows us to live on Earth. Without the sun, there would be no heat.
there would be no heat, there would be no light. Plants could not grow. Water would freeze.
There would be no light. Plants could not grow. Water would freeze, and nothing could survive.
And nothing could survive. The sun gives us heat and light because it's always burning. It's a giant ball.
The sun gives us heat and light because it is always burning. It is a giant
So-
ball of gas.
mostly hydrogen and helium, and it burns at millions of degrees in its center.
Mostly hydrogen and helium, and it burns at millions of degrees in its center. Let's leave the sun
Let's leave the sun now to explore the planet.
to explore the planets.
Yeah, just
Okay,
forget.
class,
It's just a
who would
map.
like to do problem 3 on the board?
It's just a map. Just forget it.
As we move away
As we move away from the sun, the first planet we encounter is Mercury.
from the sun, the first planet we will encounter is Mercury. Mercury is the smallest
Mercury is the smallest planet in the solar system, much smaller than Earth, and is one of the only 5 planets.
planet in the solar system, much smaller than Earth, and one of only 5 planets you can see from
You can see from Earth using nothing but your eyes. Of course, it won't look much like a
Earth using nothing but your eyes. Of course, it won't look much like a planet.
but you won't look much like a planet. It looks more than a bright star, and many nights you can see it close.
It looks more like a bright star, and many nights you can see it close to the
Close to the horizon near sunrise and sunset.
horizon near sunrise and sunset. Mercury is a lot like our
Mercury is a lot like our moon. It's small and has rocky surface with craters on it.
It's small and has a rocky surface with craters on it. It has no moon of its own, and
It has no moons on its own and no air to breathe. You probably wouldn't enjoy a visit to Mercury.
no air to breathe. You probably wouldn't enjoy a visit to Mercury, since
Since temperatures are boiling hot in the sun and freezing cold in the shade.
temperatures are boiling hot in the sun and freezing cold in the shade.
Something interesting about Mercury is that it is the only fastest planet to go around the sun. It only
is that it is the fastest planet to go around the sun. It only takes 88
only takes 88 days.
days. Next is Venus.
Next is Venus. Some people call Venus Earth's sister because the two
The second planet. Some people call Venus Earth's sister because the two planets are
very close in size and gravity, but they are very different on the surface.
close in size and gravity, but they are very different on the surface. First of all, it's very hot. Venus is the hottest planet in the solar system. It's very hot. Venus is the hottest planet in the solar system. It's not as close to the
It's not as close to the sun as Mercury, but its thick atmosphere of carbon dioxide helps it
sun
to
as Mercury, but its thick atmosphere of carbon dioxide helps it to trap the heat and stay
trap the heat and stay warmer than its
warmer
neighbor.
than its neighbor. It has a thick
It has a thick atmosphere, but it is not one.
atmosphere, but it is not one you could breathe. It is
It's mostly made of carbon dioxide and there are clouds of sulfuric acid. It just rains sulfuric acid.
mostly made of carbon dioxide, and there are clouds of sulfuric acid.
Venus might be not fun to be visited, but it's beautiful to look at. It's the second
Fun to visit, but it is beautiful to look at. It is the second brightest
It is the second
object
brightest
in the night sky.
object in the night sky. The only thing brighter is the moon.
The only thing brighter is the moon. If you are looking at a sunrise
If you're looking at the sunrise
or a sunset,
or sunset, you suddenly notice what looks like a very bright star.
suddenly notice what looks like a very bright star, you are probably looking at
You're probably looking at Venus.
After Venus comes comes Earth.
After Venus comes Earth, the third planet from the Sun. Of course, you know all.
The third planet from the Sun. Of course, you know all
all
about
about
Earth because
Earth.
that's the
Because that's the planet where we live. Earth is what's called the Goldilocks planet.
planet where we live. Earth is what's called a Goldilocks planet because it's not
Because it's not too hot and not too cold. It's just right.
too hot and not too cold. It is just right.
As far as we know,
As far as we know, Earth is the
Earth is the only planet to have living things.
planet to have living things. Let's leave Earth again
Let's leave Earth again for a moment through and visit Mars.
for a moment, though, and visit Mars, the fourth planet from the Sun.
And the fourth planet from the Sun. Mars is known as the red planet because iron oxide, a material like rust,
Mars is known as the red planet because iron oxide, a material like rust, in the soil, gives it a reddish
gives it a reddish color. Mars is smaller than Venus and Earth,
color. Mars is smaller than Venus and the Earth, but larger than Mercury.
but larger than Mercury.
It is
It is cold and rocky with a thin atmosphere made of carbon dioxide and a small amount of nitrogen and oxygen.
cold and rocky, with a thin atmosphere made of carbon dioxide and oxygen. There is water
There's water ice on Mars on the north and south poles.
on Mars. Scientists are very
Scientists are very interested in Mars because they think people could live there.
interested in Mars because they think that people could live
Live
there
there.
with the help of
With the help of some special equipment, rockets and probes have already been to send there.
some special equipment. Rockets and probes have already been sent there to gain more
information about the planet. Right now, there are two special robots exploring.
about the planet. Right
Yeah.
now, there are two special robots exploring the surface of
Exploring the surface of Mars, sending information back to Earth.
Mars, sending information back to Earth. Mars is the first planet we
Mars is the first planet we visit today besides Earth to have its own moons.
visited today besides Earth to have its own moons. It has two.
It has two, although they're not big and round like our moon. Mars's moons are small and irregular.
Although they are not big and round like our moon, Mars's moons are small and irregular. Scientists think
They maybe capture asteroids. Maybe they came from the big
they
asteroid
may
belt.
be captured asteroids. Maybe they came from the big asteroid belt that is between
That is between Mars and Jupiter. An asteroid belt is a big ring of asteroids or
Mars and Jupiter. An asteroid belt is a big ring of asteroids or
rocky objects orbiting the Sun.
orbiting the Sun. Jupiter comes next.
Jupiter comes next. The fifth planet in the solar system. Jupiter is the largest.
The fifth planet in the solar system. Jupiter is the largest planet and is something called
It's something called a gas giant. It is called this because it's very
a
big.
gas giant. It is called this because it is really big and
Made mostly gases. Jupiter is so big that you will have to place 11 Earths end to end.
mostly of gases. Jupiter is so big that you would have to place 11 Earths end to end just to
stretch across its middle.
stretch across its middle.
Jupiter is also the third brightest object in the night sky. Only Venus and the Moon.
Is also the third brightest object in the night sky. Only Venus and the Moon are brighter.
Only Venus and the Moon are bright. You can usually find Jupiter higher in the sky than Venus.
You can usually find Jupiter higher in the sky than Venus since Jupiter is away
Since Jupiter is away from the sun and not towards it.
From the sun and not towards it.
Jupiter has at least 67 moons that circle around it, but 55 of them are very small.
It has at least 67 moons that circle around it, but 55 of them are very small, only as big as a mountain or smaller. Some of the moons are very large. As big as a mountain or smaller. Some of its moons are very large, and at least two of them
are about the same size as the planet Mercury.
One of its moons
is the largest moon in the universe. Some of these largest moons
in the solar system. Some of these large moons can be seen from Earth. In your backyard with a telescope.
People cannot land on Jupiter because it's made of gas. There's no land to ground on. There's no ground to land on.
On Jupiter because it is made of gas. There is no ground to land on.
Even there was somewhere to land, Jupiter is covered with terrible storms, much stronger than Earth.
Jupiter is covered by terrible storms, much stronger than even the strongest storms on Earth.
One storm we know about can be seen.
One storm that we know about can be seen from Earth.
We call it the Great Red Spot because that's what it looked like. It's red a bit. And it has been.
We call it the Great Red Spot because that's what it looks like. And it has been going on for
it's been going on for at least 2 centuries, 200 years.
At least 200 years.
After Jupiter comes Saturn, another gas giant. Saturn is famous for its beautiful ring.
Another gas giant. Saturn is famous for its beautiful rings.
Although they look solid from distance, the rings are actually made from many tiny small particles of dust, rock, and ice.
Solid from a distance. The rings are actually made from many small ice particles, as well as rocks and dust. Saturn also
has more than 60 moons orbiting around it, some as large as the planet Mercury.
More than 60 moons orbiting around it, some as large as the planet Mercury, and many smaller. Something interesting about
Saturn is that even though it's not very large,
it is not very dense. That means that if you could find a bathtub large enough to put
Saturn in it.
It would float.
It would float instead of sink.
Saturn is the farthest planet
that can be seen from Earth without the help
of a telescope. After Saturn comes Uranus.
The seventh planet from the Sun. Uranus is another gas giant.
Planet from the Sun. Uranus is another gas giant, but it is much smaller.
But it is much smaller than Saturn and Jupiter. Unlike any other planets in the solar system,
Saturn and Jupiter. Unlike any other planet in the solar system, it is tilted.
It is tilted so much that it spins sideways. Uranus has rings
so much that it actually spins sideways. Uranus has rings around it, although they are much
smaller than Saturn and 27 known moons. Uranus is covered in blue clouds.
Than Saturn's and 27 known moons. is covered in blue clouds made of methane,
which gives it its lovely color.
Very similar to
Uranus is Neptune, the eighth planet from the Sun. Neptune is another gas giant.
Neptune, the eighth planet from the Sun. Neptune is another gas giant, and like Uranus,
it has methane. Its atmosphere looks like blue.
It has methane in its atmosphere, so it also looks blue. Neptune
is a darker blue than Uranus, and scientists aren't sure why. Neptune has a few thin
darker
rings.
blue than Uranus, and scientists aren't sure why. Neptune has a few thin rings
and 14 known moons that we know about. Because Neptune is so far out in space, it takes it a very long time to go around.
So far out in space, it takes it a very, very long time to go around the sun.
Remember Mercury? That only takes 88 days to go once around the sun?
Remember Mercury? That only takes 88 days to go once around the sun? Poor Neptune
takes over 164 years to finish an orbit around the sun. Now, what time was Neptune? Was it?
Over 164 years to finish an orbit around the sun. The last time that Neptune was in the same place.
That is the same place it now was before the American Civil War, before computers, phones, and airplanes.
As it is now, was before the American Civil War, before computers, phones, airplanes, or cars
have been invented. Neptune has the longest orbit of any planet in the solar system.
Neptune has the longest orbit of any planet in the solar system. Now you may think that I forgot someone. Pluto. Pluto was discovered in 1930. That I've forgotten someone. Pluto was discovered in 1930 and was listed as the
ninth planet in the solar system as we study longer.
The planet in the solar system. As it was studied longer, scientists realized how small it is. It's much smaller than any other planet in the solar system. How small it is. It is much smaller than any other planet in the solar system.
Even Russia was a bit bigger, but I didn't mention it in the video.
System, and even smaller than many other
moons. Plus, people started to discover other small
moons.
rocky
People started to discover other small rocky
planet-like objects in space near Pluto. Some of them were bigger than Pluto. In 2006,
objects in space near Pluto. Some of them were even bigger than Pluto. In 2006, after 76 years being listed as a planet, Pluto was declared as a dwarf planet. Years being listed as a planet, Pluto was declared a dwarf planet to show that it was something that looks like a planet, but is much smaller. There are at least 6 dwarf planets. Something that was like a planet, but much smaller. There are at least 6 dwarf planets in the solar system, and possibly many, many more. That leaves us with 8
official planets in our solar system: Mercury, Venus, Earth,
planets in
Mars,
our solar system. Mercury,
Venus,
Earth, Mars,
Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune.
Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune.
I hope you enjoyed exploring the solar system with me today. Goodbye till next time.
Enjoyed exploring the solar system with me today. Goodbye till next time.
Goodbye till next time.